Alright guys, welcome back to Hyrule Warriors. Last time I met in Hyrule Warriors, we did Linkle's tale with the Ocarina of Time mission where Volga was just randomly attacking Darunia and Ruto because I guess he was fucking bored or something. But this one actually takes place after the timeline split, where Link already has the Master Sword and stuff like that. But Zelda apparently is going back to Twilight Princess because, I don't know, she forgot her keys. Wait, no, Zelda wasn't even at the Twilight Princess map. But,
all light would soon be gone from the world. Believing the Palace of Twilight to be the source of this devastation, Zelda set out on her own to stop it. Midna soon noticed that the princess was gone. She rushed after Zelda toward the palace. Along the way, Midna came upon Linkle, who seemed to be utterly transfixed by an object she had found. It was a black crystal, and Midna was mesmerized by it as well. She touched the crystal. In the blink of an eye, Midna transformed from a tiny creature into a beautiful woman.
alright, so yes, this map actually is, I believe this is how you unlock Twilight Midna in this game, in this version of Hyrule Warriors. If I could be wrong, I don't remember, but there are a few characters that you can unlock via the story mode and adventure mode, and if you unlock them in the story mode first, when you do the adventure mode map, you already have them, so they're just like, ah, fuck it, you already got them, and they kind of don't tell you that, but I believe this is where you unlock Twilight Midna. Again, I don't remember. I've had Twilight Midna unlocked for a long time, and I haven't even touched the Twilight Princess map, so I feel like my theory is right on that, because I feel like it would be pretty logical to unlock Twilight Midna here if you didn't unlock her in adventure mode yet. But again, I could be 100% wrong, and I'm just maybe misremembering. Because Twilight Midna was a DLC character for Hyrule Warriors. Well, she was added to Legends, if I remember correctly. But I do believe she was DLC for the original as well, if I remember right. Like, she was a DLC character. And we went over the DLC. We went over the DLC in the first part of Linkle's Tale. Excuse me. I'm trying to remember the DLC. Did the Twilight Princess pack have a character? I know the Twilight Princess pack gave Zelda the Dominion Rod. And then it gave Link the Postman's outfit from Twilight Princess, which you now have to unlock in Definitive Edition. Usually the packs did give a new character, so I'm pretty sure Twilight Midna came with the Twilight Princess pack. For Hyrule Warriors. So I've had Twilight Midna unlocked for a long time in every version of Hyrule Warriors I've ever had, even the 3DS version. Honestly, I think the version of Hyrule Warriors I put the least amount of time into is the 3DS version, and that's because it's the 3DS version. You know, it's just not as. It's not that the 3DS version is terrible. Like, it's not the worst. Out of the three versions, it is the worst version just because of the simple fact that it's the 3DS. And, you know, it also, you are kind of required, it is new 3DS XL exclusive, meaning that you do need to be playing on the new 3DS XL in order to actually play this, in order to play Hyrule Warriors Legends. But, if I remember correctly, even with it being on the new 3DS XL, it was just terrible. It was just pretty bad. And the issue is that, you know, the 3DS was just not designed. No matter which version of the 3DS it just wasn't designed with Warriors games in mind. And even if it was a first-party game, you know, I'm a little, you know, I like the fact that they managed to get Hyrule Warriors running on the 3DS in the first place. But especially with how much content is in it, with adventure mode and legend mode and adventure and free mode and Ganon's Fury, all that stuff. You know, with all the content that's in Hyrule Warriors Legends, it is pretty insane how they got that, in such a tiny cartridge. But then again, there's probably more memory in that cartridge than I'd like to imagine. And on top of that, there's all the DLC that Legends came with. And then they just said, fuck you to anyone who bought both versions, bought both season passes, and released Definitive Edition. just to spite us. Though, personally, I mean, I didn't mind buying, 3 versions of Hyrule Warriors. For one, I legitimately do think this is one of my favorite Zelda games that isn't a mainline game. Like, out of the Zelda spin-offs that I've played, which is really just this one, and a little bit of Link's crossbow training, there's not really a lot of Zelda spin-offs now I'm thinking about it, huh? I'm trying to think of all the Zelda spin-offs, and really the only one I can think of is Link's crossbow training. So out of the 2 Zelda spin-offs, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think there's any other Zelda spin-offs. I mean, Link appears in Smash, but that's not a Zelda spin-off. I don't know. I'm actually kind of curious. If maybe I'm just maybe I'm just having bad memory here. Cadence of Hyrule is considered a spin-off, I guess. I didn't spend a lot of time in that, but I did play a little bit of it. I liked what I played. I just haven't spent a lot of time enough to say if it's, I mean, there's also Link, the Faces of Evils, and Zelda, Wand of Gamelon, if you guys want to say that. I mean, I don't think anyone in the right mind would say those are better games than Hyrule Warriors, but I mean, there's also Age of Calamity, I guess. You could argue that that's a different thing, but like, out of all of the Zelda, I mean, in terms of Zelda games in general, this is probably, like, the one that I spent so much time in, and that's because, that's just the nature of the game. But, like, mainline Zelda game, in terms of my favorite, it's Twilight Princess. I don't care what anyone says. Twilight Princess is my favorite. I don't want to hear what you... I don't care enough to hear your opinion. I don't want to hear your Link to the Past, or Ocarina of Time, or your Majora's Masks. Twilight Princess is my favorite, and I will not elaborate why until I do my Twilight Princess Let's Play. In 10 years. But, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, they haven't really done a lot of Zelda spin-offs. Mainly because every game is considered canon, which is, I mean, they never really outright state if a game is not canon until, like, years down the line. Or, in the Hyrule Historias and shit like that. They never really, explicitly state, is this Zelda game canon or not? I mean, because you can generally go into a Zelda game assuming it's canon to the timeline. But, like, there's a few exceptions, and Hyrule Warriors is one of them. Because, as much as Matt Pat liked to argue that Hyrule Warriors was canon for his Breath of the Wild theories, which I understand where he's coming from. It does make sense. It does, give a bit of a justification on uniting the timeline, that bridge being Hyrule Warriors. I get it. But, if Nintendo expressly said, including the director of Zelda saying this, that Hyrule Warriors is not canon, then Hyrule Warriors is not canon, and you can't really force it to be canon. Like, yeah, you can say it's canon for your own thing, and whatchamacallit, and to explain your theory, but at the same time, your theory is just not going to work out that well for everybody else because they're going to deal with the actual facts that that Hyrule Warriors is not canon, and that aim does include. I do believe that does include Age of Calamity. Age of Calamity, if I remember correctly, is actually not canon, and I actually know, and you know, it's pretty clear why. I mean, with what happens in that game. What was I saying? With what happens in that game. With what happens in that game, it makes sense that it's not canon to the Breath of the Wild timeline, because it'd be kind of weird for, you know, them to say that Breath of the Wild, you know, this huge devastation happened, and then, oh, it turns out that actually, no, it didn't. It happened for like 10 minutes, and then they fixed it, and then, but it still happened anyway. It was it was a mess to, you know, try to figure out how to justify it, if that made sense. So they were better off just saying it's an alternate timeline, which I'm fine with. But I mean, honestly, Age of Calamity, I've only played. I didn't put a lot. I put a lot of time into it, but I didn't put as much time into it as I did this game. And if I were to say which of the two games are better, I'd probably end up saying it was this one. And that's just because at this one, Hyrule Warriors original doesn't really limit itself as to being a Breath of the Wild spinoff. It's an overall Zelda celebration, and that's just kind of what the point of Hyrule Warriors was just to be a celebration of Zelda in general. Now, you know, yeah, Age of Calamity can celebrate Breath of the Wild, all one game of it at the time, because Tears of the Kingdom wasn't out yet. So yeah, all one game of Breath of the Wild. And yeah, there's still a lot you could do with Breath of the Wild story, especially with the bigger production values that the Breath of the Wild characters bring, you know, with voice acting and stuff like that. I say voice acting, but technically Linkle, I mean, technically everyone's voice acted in this game because they have the, you know, grunts and shit like that. But you know what I mean. But I feel like Age of Calamity really just didn't do much to really make me feel invested in, you know, wanting to put a lot of time into this game, and especially when it came to upgrading characters, because really a lot of the characters were so distinct from each other that it was almost hard to get used to some of them. You know, you're like Link alone. Like Link was pretty fun to use when he was, depending on what weapons you had with him. Zelda was good to use when she got her second weapon. Impa was really really cool to use once you mastered how the Sheikah system, how her Sheikah runes system works. And then I kind of like playing as Urbosa a little bit, and Mipha. Mipha was pretty fun to play as. And I hate to admit it, but Rivali had a pretty interesting gimmick. As much as I hate Rivali, I will admit it. Rivali was somewhat interesting, but the problem is that, you know, you got to get used to all these characters, all, you know, within each other, you know, within a short time frame. And yeah, you know, Hyrule in this game, all the characters are distinct in their own ways, you know, in terms of what their abilities do. But I'm trying to figure out a way to phrase this. It's a lot easier to understand and digest how these characters work than it is for Age of Calamity. If I feel like I make sense there, but at the same time I don't. I feel like I don't. Like, I can pick up playing Linkle after playing Link for like 10 hours. And I mean, yeah, it isn't kind of fair. It's kind of unfair considering that Linkle is, you know, a female version of Link, but she does have a completely different playstyle than regular Link. Or a better example is I could pick up playing Zant immediately after playing a Sheik. Two distinctly different characters, but in terms of initiating their combos, they're all the same. It's just their combos have different effects that you just have to figure out. And all of them, like Sheik's gimmick is, the music is having access to the songs from Ocarina of Time. And when you use them, there are different effects that happen after each time you use them. Like, if you use the Prelude of Light, a giant light barrier pops up and damages enemies. If you use the Serenade of Water, you are invulnerable for a little bit until I think you take enough hits. Bolero of Fire, does a bit of an area sweep with a fire attack. There's all of the songs that Sheik uses in her combos have different effects based on what you use. While Zant has a bit of a risk and reward system, where if you can risk using Zant's special combos too much and end up stunning yourself for a split second, or you could, play it safe and reward yourself later by unlocking his Berserk mode. They're two distinct characters, but I feel like it's a little bit easier to understand how they work than compared to, say, playing as Link versus playing as Rivali. That's just how I feel. And it also has been a while since I've touched Age of Calamity. I think the last time I touched it was when the Season Pass fully came out. I might be. Well, I know not a lot of people played not as many people played Age of Calamity as this game. I just want to mention, by the way, Linkle is standing right next to Zelda. Like, that's Zelda. Does she not realize that? No, she doesn't, clearly. Like, for that victory screen alone, I kind of wish Zelda was standing like, where the fuck is she going?
Midna and Linkle made it to the Palace of Twilight to rescue Zelda and stop the evil magic. Yet though the battle was won, the Twilight magic continued devouring everything around it. It was then that Midna made a bold decision. She would smash the crystal they had found in the palace. In doing so, perhaps she could release enough energy to contain the dark magic. This plan was not without its consequences, as Midna would return to her cursed self. Despite the cost, Midna decided without hesitation, knowing that she must save Zelda. Midna's resolve deeply inspired Linkle. With renewed fire, Linkle hurried to Hyrule Castle.
Well, considering she went the wrong way in the victory screen, I'm pretty sure she's still going the wrong way. So someone better turn her ass around. Yeah, whatever. But I believe that's going to be the end of the part. And these are getting shorter and shorter as the day goes on, huh? Me? Okay. I guess I was actually reading what the weapon was. But that's going to do it for this part of Hyrule Warriors. So the next time we meet in Hyrule Warriors, we're actually going to be... I think we actually end up finishing Linkle's Tale next part. So yeah, see you guys next time for more Hyrule Warriors, and take care.